on right here at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm literally eating all that I want to, and yet I'm still losing weight. That's so like.
You sound like one of those commercial people.
I don't get it. Like they pay
Because
me to
you are
say that.
eating what your body knows how to use.
That's so weird. Okay.
All right.
Okay, sorry.
Me and you, we
I
know.
was hoping she would be here. So we're gonna talk about, there's two sources of fuel for the body. One we know is glucose, and it's not our friend. And honestly, biologically, we're really not set up to use it because we get the glucose running around in there, and your body says this is too much, I can't deal with it, I'm shoving it into fat cells. I'm gonna turn it into fat, shove it into fat cells. When you are running on an alternative fuel called ketones, which are made by fat, your body understands how to use that, and you start using the fat for energy instead of the glucose for energy. And that is, if you will go back to 1800s, we probably lived in ketosis most of the year, except for when things were nice and green and we could pick what we could see. Babies are born in ketosis. Breastfed babies stay in ketosis. My kids get into ketosis within like a couple of meals of eating low carb. Your body wants to be there. It's just as we've grown and confused our bodies, it's forgotten how to do that. So for us later on, it takes a couple of days, you know, but once you kind of kick into it, you feel better. You can eat a whole lot more and still lose weight, and you're eating real food. You're not eating rice cakes and counting calories. Don't look at me, you know you've all done it.
No, I looked at her because that's what she bought last week.
So, you seriously
They're
bought rice
good.
She literally bought rice cake.
Wow.
I thought I was kidding when I looked at her, y'all.
I
So,
ain't eating no rice cake. I ain't gonna eat something that's gonna stick to the roof of my mouth.
It doesn't stick to your roof of your mouth. They taste
What do you
great.
put on it?
Nothing, and they taste good.
Well, you can eat all the rice cakes you want to.
so in the 1960s, or in the 1860s, believe it or not, life expectancy was as good as it was today. It's that gap in between medicine and agricultural farming where life expectancy went down a little bit. What's about to happen to all of us? Life expectancy is about to drop a bit because we're all getting diabetic and getting heart disease, and we're going to start dying earlier. We're seeing our kids die, you know, and that's the bottom line. I'm seeing 30 and 40-year-olds on the cardiac floor at an alarming rate, and that is something I never saw before. So that's a scary thing to me because I mean I'm actually seeing it happen. So up until the 1960s, we were still eating relatively low carb, probably about 35% carbs. Now we're hitting probably about 70% carbs. Our bodies do not know how to deal with that. And hence we have started the obesity epidemic and the diabetes epidemic, and now I think the next epidemic you're going to see is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm starting to hear more and more and more and more people that are being diagnosed. My hairdresser is about this tall. She's skinny. She's cute. She has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But that's because her body's taking all that sugar she's been taught to eat. Because she's been taught to eat a low-fat diet. You've got to make up your calories somewhere. We make them up in sugar, and it's storing fat in her liver. So tonight, what I want you to know is ketosis is not the same as diabetic ketoacidosis. Those are two different things. Diabetic ketoacidosis is dangerous. Ketosis is not. It's the fuel that your body actually prefers. Do you want anything else?
No, I think I want to look at this one.
Okay.
This has just got the front one, or the other one.
So
They don't have jacket. I know.
I'll get you some stuff put together.
It's on the work.
Thank you, Melanie. So anyways, now we're in the middle of this epidemic, and we can totally reverse it if we will throw all the bad science out and start eating real food again, which we have determined from Dr. Sivas is real food is protein and fat. Real food are not carbohydrates because our bodies are not even set up to deal with them. Apes are set up to eat carbohydrates. They have this enormous, great big gut with this really long, small intestine and lots of anaerobic bacteria to digest carbohydrates. We don't have anaerobic bacteria in our little small intestines. We don't carry around a big gut. We're meant to move. And we have small amount of small intestine and a huge amount of large intestine where you take care of fats and water and stuff like that. So biologically, we're not even set up to use carbohydrates. You can eat a zero carb diet, many people do it, and they do fine. Dr. Sean Baker, I think he has been zero carb for 12 years. He doesn't even take supplements. I mean, you don't need them, but to transition and to make your diet more like what you know, there are plenty of vegetables you can eat if you want to eat them. And that's why I developed that green list.
Yeah.
Because most people cannot wrap their heads around throwing them all out the window. And I know this because we did it. Were you able to catch up on any of the videos?
No, I had continuing education classes
Okay.
last month.
Because videos 1 and 2 are going to tell you that insulin is kind of the root of all of our
Okay.
problems dietarily,
Okay.
and what you can do to stop the insulin. And I put on there, on the ones I sent to you, I sent all the accompanying videos that go
Okay.
with them,
All
that
right.
we watched.
I'll try to get caught up on some of them tonight. Just
I know, it's a lot. I haven't had time to sit down today. In fact, there was more I wanted to bring and did not. This is Miss Auntie. She is like Molly's other mother. Just so y'all know. So, gave you the food list. The second thing, if you have been doing the diet or if you're going to start tomorrow, I brought ketone test strips that you can test with. You need to move on to blood testing, and I brought that meter with me.
okay.
So what happens is when you first switch over and you get all that sugar out of your body and your body starts making ketones again, it makes a whole lot of them because it like gets happy, and you pee them out so you can see it on a pee strip. And those are very cheap, so I have enough to send with everybody. So for about 2 weeks, you produce way too many and they spill over in your urine. As your body says, oh, she's gonna keep doing this for me, I appreciate that. Your body's gonna stop spilling them over. It'll teach your cells how to get stronger and use your mitochondria, start using them for energy. And then you're not gonna be peeing them out as much because you're gonna be using them. And that takes about 2 weeks, which I think is where you're at, which is why yours quit showing. So it's a good thing. So I've got a bunch with me. They don't stay good forever and they're cheap. So I'll send enough for all of y'all to check for a while. And then tonight we got 2 recipes. And then I kind of ripped one off of the last week's recipe, the easy peasy provolone recipe, the avocado toast recipes. I was sitting in bed the other day and someone mentioned chalupas and I went, why can't we do that with our provolone crisp? So take your provolone crisp, put some kind of taco meat on it, put some guacamole on it, put some sour cream and some cheese on it, and you've got chalupa. It's brilliant. And then when I posted it, Lori Powell wrote in and said, oh, I've been making pizzas out of this. So she made her provolone crisp, put a little spaghetti sauce on it, put her pepperonis on it, put cheese on it.
I should print out that.
It's like, amazing, okay. And that's something you can do, that's easy to do at work if you just put a little piece of parchment paper in your lunch bag. I've done it. So, and then the other thing for homework, since we're getting serious about doing this and figuring out how to eat within macros, would be the Two Keto Dudes podcast, number 89. Number 89.
Podcast number 89.
I'll pass this around so you can write it down.
Okay.
That is your homework this week. To just listen to that one podcast. One of these men were very, very sick. He was full-blown diabetic. He was to the point where the doctor said, "I've got to amputate your toe," and he said, "No, there's got to be something better." Here's right there. And he went on a strict ketogenic diet and never had to have his toe amputated, and he is very metabolically healthy today. So I find there.
I asked my doctor about the keto diet.
Your handwriting's pretty.
Pills. And he told me that was not the,
Keto pills ain't good.
he told me that wasn't the right thing.
Well, it's
The
pretty.
keto pills,
Like,
I don't know
it's
how to
like-
ride in Costa.
I do too.
the keto itself.
I do too, it just takes me a minute.
It will.
Because I want to look
Ketogenic
pretty.
diet
Yeah.
is a good
Like
healthy
you just
diet.
wrote it, you're like,
Like 13,
For
and she don't
modern
write her name. She
agriculture
gets so mad because I forget, and I leave her notes all the time in cursive, and she calls me and she's like,
My daughter, she had to sign her signature right now, she said.
Now, a lot of people say keto and they mean that they're just eating sugar-free junk food. They're ripping the top off of pizzas. They're eating hamburgers without the bun from McDonald's and stuff. That's not a true, well-formulated ketogenic diet. That's what your
my
doctor's
favorite thing
thinking
to do in
about.
school was
This is not really a junk food diet.
I was taught
Look
it.
at that list.
Yeah,
That is a very well-balanced diet.
For like since middle school.
If
Middle
you
school, I
Google
moved
it,
here.
They
I
have their
was
own
still in
player on their
Wisconsin, so they taught us
website, or they're also on
Bonnie writes in
YouTube.
cursive, but he's not me, so.
Yes, ma'am.
And you got rid. Number 89 is the one that's the most valuable. After you listen to that, if you like them and want to listen to everything, they are very knowledgeable. In fact, I think, I can't remember which one. One of them is in school to become a biochemical engineer because he wants to bring this knowledge more to the forefront, and he's going to do the studies to prove it. Love him. All right, so there are 3 macronutrients in our diet, and there are only 3 macronutrients in your diet where you can get things that your body needs to survive. We've already talked about the fact that your body is only made out of proteins and fat. Your body's not made out of a carbohydrate. There's not a carbohydrate that was naturally born with you. It just doesn't exist. And so when we get back to feeding our bodies what our bodies need to build with, get a lot healthier again. So the 3 macronutrients that they talk about are, of course, carbohydrate, protein, and fat. And your body's going to require you to have a certain number of energy units a day to even survive. So if you are not getting your energy from here and here, it's going to tell you to eat this. Your brain's going to go to it because this is what lights up that dopamine in your brain and what makes you addicted because it's the feel-good hormones. But when you get your calories from here and here, you have cutoffs. You quit eating when you're not hungry. You don't get hungry very often. It's like you become more of an efficient machine, and that's because that's where we're supposed to operate. So, carbohydrate does one thing, and it gives you energy as glucose. That is all it does. And we know that when we eat carbohydrate and we get energy as glucose, our body can't burn it all. And so our body is kicking up our insulin, and our insulin is shoving that straight into our fat cells because our body can't burn the sugar. It's not meant to. It's never going to be meant to. It's just how we've been built. So protein. I did bring the green marker. So protein. Also, this is the amazing thing, in every other carbohydrate, again, have plenty of energy. Protein also gives you energy as glucose, but not nearly in the
Hey, going
amounts
point.
that carbohydrate does.
Let's make a tower.
Okay, you can
Let's go make a tower.
never eat another carbohydrate again, and your body will make glucose out of protein.
I can't never eat carbohydrate again?
No, I said you can
Don't
never.
need to.
If you never eat another carbohydrate,
Okay.
your body also can make energy as glucose from protein. Your liver converts it. It's a natural process. We were built this way. And then
Love without carbs.
fat. We get energy from it, and it gives us our absorption of our amino acids. It also acts as a hormone transporter and all the other stuff that we've talked about in the past, and those are on the other videos. So it gives us the ability to use those amino acids, and it gives us fatty acids, which are needed in every process in your body. So it's not your enemy. It's just in the presence of this that it becomes problematic. Okay, so we're gonna leave this guy over here. He's about to get awfully lonely. Protein also helps us synthesize enzymes and antibodies. So it strengthens our immune system. Fat does our vitamin absorption for us. I wonder why America is so deficient in their fat-soluble vitamins. We don't eat fat to dissolve them and get them into our cells. So these right here, A, D, E, K, which are fat-soluble vitamins. Protein maintains your acid-base balance in your body, which is a very important thing for your cells. And fat gives us our structure material. Every cell in your body has to have fat. It is what surrounds your nerves. It is what your brain's mostly made out of. And it's in every cell. It gives cells its structures, and it helps it transport nutrients back and forth across the membranes. So this works, it builds cells, muscles, and, cells, tissues, and transports. So it's very important. Your protein helps with hormone production. How many ladies do you know now that have PCOS, that have early onset menopause, that have, I see more and more people with fertility issues. I mean, just, we're seeing all kinds of things because of our hormones.
We definitely have hormones.
So you're not gonna get any of that from here. And then fats are your chemical messengers, where we're talking about it transports things through your cells. And then protein is also a transporter. Transports molecules.
It's like me and Matt.
Now this is like coming from my certification class, so this is kind of up here stuff. Now I want you to see how much this does, and it does the same thing this does, and how this doesn't do everything these do. It's the only takeaway you need. Fats make prostaglandins, which helps with pain. It helps with fever, blood clotting. Prostaglandins are in a lot of our processes in our bodies. This transmits signals to coordinate biological processes in your body. And then that, there's two more. It preserves integrity of the blood-brain barrier. You remember we've talked about Alzheimer's and dementia being called diabetes type 3 because sugar can get into the brain and the insulin can't get into the brain to take care of it. But yet when you have an older individual that has dementia and you start giving them ketones for their brain energy, the ketones cross readily and the brain knows how to use them. So
That's interesting you said that, because I got a friend who's got
early
dad,
onset.
well, no, he's got dementia, but she goes and visited him, and she had this cart, I mean, just these sugar, nothing but sugar in this cart, and she said, the doctor normally says, you know, forget the sugar, but he's too far gone, and I'm just giving him whatever he wants, and that's all he does all day long is just
That's what
eat
we
sugar.
that's what we did with my father-in-law at the end. But had we known had we known 20 years ago what we know now, he never would have had as much sugar in his diet, and maybe he never would have had Alzheimer's. Maybe. We don't know, but there's a lot of good indications and good studies that say that this is really doing some damage on our brains. So preserves blood-brain barrier because if it didn't cross readily, you know, it tells me that your brain knows what to do with it. Glucose does not cross very easily. Glucose actually has to sneak into the brain, and then insulin can't follow in to do anything with it. So hence diabetes number 3, and now I get why they say that. And then the other thing fat does for you, and now we can all attest to this, unfortunately, it's insulation. We've all got some insulation, right?
You ain't get,
we hot all the time.
okay.
But just really interesting when you break it all down.
She's burning up over here.
This sustains life. This doesn't.
Okay.
Okay?
Gotcha.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And that's okay. We're going to take you one step at a time.
Yeah.
Okay?
The hardest part is buying the stuff.
Well,
How about that? I mean,
stop buying all the other
because
stuff,
you gotta,
then it's not that bad.
Once you get, yeah, because once
Yeah,
you get
start
routine,
buying all that other stuff,
That means your
start buying the
snack
healthy
cabinet,
stuff,
bro.
then the bad stuff,
You just gotta resist
will out
it.
equal all
I
this,
did.
this,
I didn't
this
eat
good
one thing
stuff
from
will
that
out
chicken
equal the
cabinet.
bad, because you're not spending but just a few dollars more. Once you get this, then all
when you're
that
used to
junk that
cooking
you
like the
buy
same stuff over and over again, like I was.
It's
like,
actually
it-
cheaper for me now than it
It
was
threw me way off
before.
when I had to go to the store and buy almost everything to cook different, you know what I mean? That was the hardest part for me. Then when I got home and started making stuff, I'm like, oh, I can do this. Yeah.
And if you're creative, you are so lucky if you are creative. I'm not creative. So,
My Alfredo sauce.
Have a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
Green beans, what do you,
I'm not a fan. You can use them at the beginning.
okay,
I'm not a fan because they are a sweeter vegetable.
okay. It's just, I love green beans, so I was just wondering what.
Start with green beans with some olive oil on them.
Okay.
Start with that, that's fine.
Okay.
If you start adding up and you're eating so many green beans, you're eating 50 carbs a day, cut way back.
Okay. But it's like most of the vegetables here, like the asparagus and all, I mean, my daughter and I could just chop up a bunch of these, roast them, and just make a meal with that.
You can
With
do
the
that.
avocado, with the oil, you know.
For you, you're gonna have to, I know she does a lot of veg,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to add protein of that.
Okay,
Your body needs it.
okay.
Your body's not her body. We're not
Right.
this big.
Right.
So
Okay.
we are no longer metabolically healthy.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of meat, I like a lot of sides, and I had to eat a lot of meat. That's why.
Most of
If
that.
she'll stay low carb
Mm-hmm.
and keep eating like she's eating, chances are she will always be metabolically healthy.
Yeah,
We messed it up with the sugar.
right.
And we can't go back, so all we can do now is repair. If she stays low carb and stays off the grains and the things that turn her insulin on, she'll probably be okay how she is.
Right.
Most of those my childhood is gone.
She is
So whenever she's picking on you about your butter, you just say, we are not the same person,
yeah,
and I have different issues.
yeah. But she's already free, so.
Yeah, that's all.
And I've got, I want you to look at Maria Emmerich, because she does a lot of dairy free.
His favorite thing to eat.
In fact, her 30-day ketogenic cleanse is probably where you need to be,
It was good.
because it incorporates a good amount of food, a good healthy food, and you could probably wrap your head around that a little bit better.
Okay. That's what I need.
Okay, so, insulin resistance, we talked about that before. If you're overweight, have hypertension, have prediabetes, are diabetic, have dementia, cardiovascular disease, any of that, it all probably started with insulin resistance, and that is completely carbohydrate driven. And then the other thing, do you know what your A1C
Me
is?
and Paul have that.
Next time you get a
Like
check,
thick ones that are about like this.
let us
big,
know.
and they're like that thick.
Okay, because your A1C, we kind of go in the fours, and then they call you insulin resistant at about 5.5. But honestly, if you're going from a 4 to a 5, you're already insulin resistant, so you've been that way for a long time.
I mean,
And then diabetes, type 2 diabetes diagnosis starts at 6.5 on the A1C scale. Well, there's 5 to 10 years between that 5.5 and 6.5 that you've done damage, and that's where you're getting your cardiac disease and your hypertension and just really starting to turn on some big time problems. And so Tim Noakes, one of the doctors from South Africa, he has gotten more aggressive. He diagnoses his patients with type 2 diabetes at 5.5 now. He said, why wait 5 to 10 years when they're just so sicker that we're going to put them on a statin and then they're going to die of cardiac disease. So he's trying to stop it earlier over there, but he's been studying this stuff for his entire career. So that's how important it is. We are going to watch Dr. Boz for a few minutes about ketones, because I don't want you to be afraid of them. I mean, your body's designed to use them. Watch her for a few minutes, and then Dr. Berry, and then I will give you, if you want to fast track and get into ketosis as fast as you can, I'll give you a strategy to do that.
Is that speed keto? I haven't seen all these stuff on that speed
Don't believe
keto.
all that mess,
Is that-
and don't buy anything.
I don't know. I'm
There is no magic pill. Your body can do it all. And what's really, really interesting is the drug companies actually know that being in ketosis helps with so much. Like, it helps with cancer treatments, it helps with diabetes, it helps you lose weight, it helps with all this stuff. So now the drug companies, instead of training you to eat to make ketones on your own, now they're trying to develop a pill to produce ketones. If that doesn't just make you want to, just fall over, I don't know what does. So that's what your money's being spent on. Let me see, where did I got my phone somewhere? Did I hide it from myself?
did you get it back from? I was like,
Didn't he have it?
You give it to him to look for something.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, you don't have
I want to take my blood.
No, you sent me a text and then he sent me a text, so.
I don't want to
You gotta pee on the strip, because if you pee on the strip and it tells you
All
you're
right,
in
sweet
tea time,
little Ashley,
then.
Well, I've been doing this for a while.
how do I
See what the strip says.
What if it?
If
get
it says
my
no,
video?
then
Let me get to my library, because I want to go back about 5 videos.
Well, I've pricked my finger before.
Go for it, go for it. I'm
What?
going.
I've pricked my finger before. My grandma,
I prick my
my
finger
grandma
too,
had
every
diabetes,
day.
and she had to take her blood.
Every day.
And so when she did it, I did it. And just pricked my finger. I mean, it didn't hurt me.
How much, what was yours?
Oh, I don't know. No, I was like a long time ago. I was a kid.
With
This is
their
20
day-
minutes, but when she gets into the real technical Alzheimer's stuff, I'm gonna cut it off.
Mine was
Okay,
130.
so this is the one I want.
Let's do it. What is it? 139.
I hate these commercials, and I'm too cheap to pay.
Someone's on an insulin pump. Can they be off? Get off of it with this diet, or is that
She on
too
two.
late?
They can, are they type 2 or are they type 1?
Too.
They're type 2 using insulin. It is possible. We've got to work with their doctor since it's actually insulin because they're going to come down really, really fast.
Okay.
Really, really fast. Usually, I'm going to have to go with this type of thing, start getting off of meds, stuff like that so fast.
No idea.
And-
Quadruple in her A1C when they checked it in the hospital or pulled it in.
I've seen worse, but that's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Boz is another, she's internal medicine, extremely smart individual, and she came to studying the diet through her mother that was about to die with CLL, and then started digging in and using it to treat almost every chronic disease she's seeing in her clinic. And so she's an extremely good resource.
One important message that you need to know is that your brain has two fuel sources. It has a glucose fuel and it has a ketone fuel. So in my little videos, I use these
Okay,
red
we'll have it on
squares
there.
as a way to point out glucose.
And we'll put all the
It's not an
videos.
accident that the glucose here is happy, because glucose does give us energy. But then there's some other guys in that glucose that are grumpy or tired, or one that's even fallen asleep. If you kind of look closer at some of the other images, there's an irritable one, there's a crabby one, there's a brain that's not working right. So I use that word glucose, and then I use these to represent ketones. Again, all three of these ketones are filled with energy. Their eyes are wide open, they're bright blue, and they're working together. They're not separate. So when you look at ketones and how they fuel your body, not just your brain, it is a much longer, deeper, continuous fuel. And there are lots of positive things that come from using ketones as a fuel. It just takes time to do that. So as I was testing this message out on my kids, I instantly realized that I'm using the word glucose, and that means I expect everybody to know where glucose comes from. And that was my first mistake. Glucose is a wonderful word, and I use it all the time. But what I'm really saying is, when you look at glucose, glucose is the sugar energy, the carbohydrate energy that's floating around in your blood. And if you look at the smattering of words here, the kind of foods that give you carbohydrates all are filled with your attention on the food pyramid. So, for instance, the carbohydrates found in granola bars sound really healthy, and I gave those to my kids for years. I gave them bran muffins, I fed them milk, I gave them yogurt, I gave them other cereals, I had salad, I did not give them wine, but bread, oatmeal, ice cream, desserts, ketchup, beans, potatoes, bananas. Bananas have a very good marketing team. Their sugar source is really quick, and everybody looks at a banana and says they're healthy. The carrots are very much a high carbohydrate vegetable, and many of the vegetables that become so processed and get cooked so much that they're more carbohydrate than anything else. And as much as when I say glucose, I'm thinking of all of these foods in my mind, and I expect the advanced people in a ketogenic diet to be able to connect those. I think my kids are kind of advanced when it comes to a ketogenic diet, and when they struggled to get some of these answers right, I knew I had to back up a little bit and make sure that everybody knows that Holsteins are where cows come from. Ketones are again, something I think everybody knows where ketones come from. Ketones are, again, this energy source that we find in our system. They come from fat. Now, as your body gets keto adapted, I want that fat to be the fat that's found in your love handles, the fat that's found in your tummy, the fat that's found around your heart. But at first, we need our bodies to be eating fat to shift the chemistry. So when I say ketones, and I talk about the food that goes with ketones, these are the kinds of foods that I think everybody should jump to the conclusion of. Whether that's sour cream, fatty fish, chicken wings as long as you eat the skin, because there's a lot of fat with that, sardines in oil. You're never going to see me skip an opportunity to promote liverwurst because it is a great resource. My kids have had their daily dose or weekly dose of liverwurst this week. Butter, bacon, ribs, as long as there's not a lot of sauce on it, so a dry rub for your ribs. The oils that you use to cook with, but make sure they're not seed oils. Most of the seed oils out there have far too many inflammatory type of fats. So, the most seedy oil that I think of is an avocado. But lard, tallow, mayonnaise, be sure to look at the labels that the mayonnaise comes with low carbs. And of course, then there's the ever popular egg, been around for thousands of years and been on the human diet for so long that the test of time wins out, even if there's been a recent article saying, hey, eggs are bad for you. Be careful, time wins. All right, so here's our brain. Here's our unhealthy brain that is wimpy. And when I look at the kind of brains that, when I see that image as a physician running a clinic for 20 years, the people in my mind that circulate include several of these words. I think of patients with memory problems. I think of patients with ADHD, with an irritable mood, those who've had seizures, tremors, headaches, migraines. Maybe they can't seem to do math in their head anymore. Maybe they have Parkinson's. Maybe they can't focus. Some of them have anxiety, depression, concentration injuries, or concentration problems, and brain injuries. They've just had a concussion and their brain is swollen. They've had excessive sugars in their brain and their brain is swollen. They're alcoholic and their brain is swollen. So I think of brain injuries. But when I see that slumpy, irritable brain, I instantly think of what happens, of the patients behind the stories of brains that aren't working well. All right, so let's get back to our brains having two sources of fuel. So here's the brain that we want to have, this nice, happy, pink, cheerful, concentrating, focused, nicely sleeping and waking energy kind of brain. The studies that we're going to talk about have to do with this brain that has both ketones and glucose flowing around your circulation. So in this blood vessel here, you can see those red blood cells circulating, but you can also see our glucose squares in the circulation, and you can see ketones in the circulation. So if we go into brains, it is a unique part of our body where the brain cannot take fat and make ketones. It can use ketones for fuel, but it cannot make ketones out of fat. So it's one of the few places in the body that that can happen. The liver is the superstar when it comes to making ketones, but the blood-brain barrier, which is the difference between that blood that's floating there and the brain, there are several protective mechanisms in our body to keep what's in circulation out of our brain. And we have lots of energy and science put into studying what ends up in our brains. So this is part of the area on the blood-brain barrier that shows how glucose uses something called a glucose transporter to go from circulation into our brains. Now, I might be using lingo there again. I might be using jargon, words that don't mean what I think they should mean to you. So jargon of glucose transporter is at the blood-brain barrier. The glucose can't just slide across. It is protected. That blood-brain barrier will take the glucose, lift it over the blood-brain barrier, and put it into the brain. And the job of the transport that does that is that's why our blood glucose never really drops below like 45 or 50 without our brain saying, hey, I just don't have enough glucose to feed the brain. So looking at a steady supply of glucose for those little folks at the blood-brain barrier to lift them over the fence and take them out of circulation and put them into the brain. But the other very important thing that's been studied is that there are ketone transporters. And so that MC transporter, not to be mistaken for
You'll see where
MCTO,
the ketone transporter transporters take them straight from the blood-brain barrier
That's
into
the
the
name of the
brain,
transport. I'll take
whereas
ketones
sugar
and put them into
transporters
the
have to
brain.
fight
Again, a
to
very
get them there.
regulated process.
So the
And
ketones
when
is a
there's
more
ketones
natural
around, that little
fuel
transporter
and
is
easier
very
fuel for
busy
your
and
brain.
does a really efficient
Oh,
job
sweetie, I've got
of
time down there. I didn't know you were back out here.
All right, so we are looking at the brains with the most disease. So I showed you all that list of brains a minute ago, of people who have low energy, they have Parkinson's, they have tremors, they have brains that aren't working right, they have anxiety, they have depression. If you go back to what happened to Lachlan when she first started this
You know how to
consult,
make
her
this?
brain wasn't working right. That's the beauty of why her
Running my
story is
phone
so
again.
powerful to me, is that her sugars were 300, people. Her brain was swollen. She couldn't focus very long. And she's a single mom with 2 kids. She needs someone to help her get her brain working right. So in order to teach what happened with Lachlan's brain, I'm going to use some of the most
We need to
diseased
go
brains
ahead and
out
pause
there,
this one.
which
I just
are
wanted them
Alzheimer's
to
brains.
understand that.
The
Ketones
Alzheimer's
are not
brains are
bad for you. Actually, they're very good
are
for you.
very old, very damaged in this situation. I want you to know that the brains have some, they are going to show how glucose fails them, but the ketones prevail. So let's start with, we're going to talk about
You
glucose
almost
first.
did it. There you go. Okay. So anyway, I just want you to feel comfortable with the fact that ketones are not bad for you. They're actually good for you and your body uses them very, very well. And so I'm gonna let Dr. Berry do a real quick getting started, and then we'll talk about what you can do to not make this process 2 weeks long, but to make it 2 days long if you want to.
So eating boiled eggs for breakfast wouldn't be bad at all. Anytime with any, boiled eggs and, say if I wanted to make tuna fish.
Great.
Tuna fish with eggs
Use a lot of
and,
mayonnaise.
no mayonnaise?
Use a lot of mayonnaise.
A lot of mayonnaise?
A lot of mayonnaise.
Not Miracle Whip, mayonnaise.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Chicken fillet.
Eh.
There you go.
Hey, I have it, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It took me a second. I just ate raw tuna. Sure, I had nothing else to, I didn't want anything else.
Don't forget to get your fat in there so that your body can make energy.
Some olive oil, and that stuff. And I was like, take that.
You're a superhero, Greg.
So let's watch Dr. Berry for a few minutes and then we'll get going on what you need to do.
Who's that?
Walmart. Everything I bring with me, I try to get at Walmart to show you that you can get this stuff right here at a decent price.
It can be gradual, it doesn't have to be overnight. So step 2 is to get rid of all the
They
grains
hide it on the bottom
out
shelf
of your
because it doesn't
diet.
have sugar in it.
The biggest and most important grain to remove completely from your diet is wheat. Wheat is something that's
Dr.
been
Berry,
in your
you're
diet for a few thousand years, but for 99.999%.
Dr. Berry, go back. Okay, you ready?
Hey, this is Dr. Berry. In this short video, I'm going to be talking to beginners, people just coming to the ketogenic way of eating. And this is called the 3 first steps to keto. These are the first 3 things that you need to do or actually stop doing to start enjoying all the benefits of the ketogenic way of eating. Now, if you know someone who's brand new to keto, who's not sure if it's healthy or safe, if they've been told it will kill your kidneys or kill your liver, then please share this video with them. Send it to them in a text or an email because they need this information so that they can comfortably start to enjoy the most natural diet that a human being can eat. So let's talk about the 3 first steps to going keto, okay? So everybody in Western society, when we start a new project or we start to solve a problem, if we're overweight, if we have insulin resistance, it's our Western mindset to think that we need to add things to the equation, right? I need to buy something, I need to build something, I need to add something to the system. And the beauty and the efficiency of the ketogenic way of eating is that you don't have to do that. You don't have to buy any products, you don't have to buy any pills, any powders, any potions. And I've actually upset some of the big dogs in the keto community who have lots of pills and powders and potions for sale by saying that, but it's absolutely true. And the way you know that is let's go back in time 30,000 years.
Okay.
Now, everyone back then ate keto for almost the entire year. They had no choice because that's the only thing that was available. And that's the reason keto works so well today is because your DNA was raised on a ketogenic diet. It knows exactly what to do with it, okay? So you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to subscribe to anything. You don't have to sign up for a multi-level marketing scheme. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to get rid of the following 3 things, okay? Number 1, are you ready, beginners? Now, and so I know if you're new to keto, you're like, crap, there's so much stuff. I don't know. Macros, do I count this? What about calories? I know, okay? Take a deep breath, blow it out, let it go. It's fine. Your DNA and your body and your physiology know exactly how to do this diet. You just have to relax and let it kind of happen, okay? Here's how you do it. Step number 1, you go into your kitchen and you find everything that has sugar as an ingredient and you throw it in the garbage or give it to a neighbor or give it to the local charity pantry so that you can help someone who can't afford to buy good food right now because bad food is better than no food, right? So everything that has sugar, and that includes fruit juices because they have tons of natural fructose, which will mess up your ketogenic diet. That includes any kind of soft drink. That includes any kind of dessert, candy, cake, pudding, pie, dessert, anything like that that has sugar, any of the sugars, okay? Give them away or throw them away. This includes honey. I love honey. It's very organic and very natural, but its glycemic index is through the roof. I love agave nectar. It's delicious, but its glycemic index is through the roof. Give it away or throw it, okay? So that's step number 1 is to get sugar completely out of your diet. If you have a sugar bowl on the table, maybe you could have a rummage sale and sell it. Give it to a neighbor who doesn't have a sugar bowl. Maybe give it to an enemy, right? Because that's just how dangerous sugar is. So step number 1, get rid of all the sugar in your house. When you go out to eat, if you eat anything that you don't know exactly what the ingredients are, ask if there's sugar in it. If they say yes, don't eat that, okay? Because no sugar is keto. No sugary substance is keto. No natural sweetener like honey or agave nectar or molasses. Also love molasses. No, none of those are keto. You don't need those. There's no nutrition in any of that that will help your body in any way. That's step 1. Step 2, you ready for step 2? After you've gotten rid of all the sugar, the next step, you can make this the next day. You can do this one day at a time if you need to, right? It can be gradual. It doesn't have to be overnight. So step 2 is to get rid of all the grains out of your diet. The biggest and most important grain to remove completely from your diet is wheat. Wheat is something that's been in the human diet for a few thousand years, but for 99.999% of human beings' existence on this planet, we never ate wheat a single time in our entire life. Okay? Only in modern recorded history times have we eaten wheat in any significant percentage in our diet. Even 5,000 years ago, wheat would just be a small percentage of your diet. Okay? Wheat is inflammatory, especially the wheat of today. It's been modified by breeding and crossbreeding to make a grain that's very high in protein, and it's an inflammatory protein. Sorry, you weightlifters and bodybuilders out there, it's not a protein that you're going to ever want to use to build muscle with. So wheat is the most important grain of all to get rid of. Another grain you need to get rid of is corn. A lot of people don't realize that corn's kind of a grain. You don't need corn. Get rid of corn. It's going to inflame your gut, which is going to inflame the rest of your body. It's going to make your blood sugar shoot straight up. That's not a good thing. You don't want that. The whole point of a ketogenic diet is to keep your blood sugar and your insulin level very low. And you can't do that if you're eating a lot of corn, especially grandmother's creamed corn. Although it's delicious, you don't need that. There's no nutrition in that that's going to help you progress in your health. Okay? So wheat, corn, rice. You've got to get rid of the rice. Rice is just a starch. Corn is just a starch. Wheat is just a starch. And oats. I know. Your grandmother told you that oats were the healthiest breakfast you could ever have, right? Sorry. I respectfully tell Grandma you'd rather have bacon and eggs. Okay? Wheat is very, very high glycemic index. I've had many a diabetic in my clinic in Tennessee say, no, I know this is good. Nutritionist said they were. And I said, well, do this simple trick. So for those of you guys who are diabetic or you have a glucometer at home, eat a big bowl of delicious oats. Wait an hour and check your blood sugar. And then you'll understand what I'm talking about, and then you can either give away or throw away your oats. So get rid of the wheat, the rice, the corn, the oats, and any other grain that you happen to have in your house. Now, I'm not talking about seeds, I'm talking about grain. That's a little different thing. Seeds will come later. So get rid of all the grain. So step 1, get rid of the sugar. Step 2, get rid of the grains. Now, step 3. Part of the ketogenic diet, and the part of it that I really love the most as a doctor, is that it's the most uninflammatory diet I've ever seen anybody eat. Inflammation in your joints, in your gut, in your brain, everywhere gets better when you eat keto. And so we don't want anything in our diet that's inflammatory in nature. And step 3 is the vegetable oils. And the reason I give air quotes is because there's no vegetables in vegetable oils. That's a nice marketing term that they attach to these oils, but there are no veggies in them whatsoever. They're made of seeds and beans, okay? The worst oil of all, the worst offender is canola oil. The next worst is corn oil. The next, safflower, sunflower, soybean. Any of these oils are very inflammatory. Their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is not healthy for human beings. And I don't even want you to give away your canola. If you have canola, if you have Crisco, if you have margarine, if you have I can't believe it's not butter, if you have country crock, don't even give that away. You wouldn't even want to give that to your enemy, okay? Throw that in the garbage. Don't give it to your dog. It's not good for your dog. If you set it out on the porch, it'll sit there for months and even mold it won't eat it, okay? Throw it away. Throw away the canola, throw away the corn oil, throw away the soybean oil. They are very, very inflammatory and bad for your system, okay? Now, those are the first 3 big steps towards moving towards a ketogenic diet. Remember I said earlier, you don't have to add things to go keto. Really what you have to do mainly is remove things. Remove the slow poisons and the inflammatory chemicals out of your kitchen, out of your pantry, out of your fridge, out of your mouth, out of your life. That's your goal, is to remove the bad things that big food and big pharma want you to eat. And eat real, natural, whole foods, okay? And I'm not
That's it.
No rice, corn,
wheat.
Yeah.
Corn is a grain, wheat is a grain, rice is a grain. So no grains, no sugar,
No hibachi.
and change your fats to
Yeah,
real
what are you
fat.
gonna do?
Why can't you have the meat and vegetables?
Because I don't like the vegetables.
Why can't you have the meat?
Okay,
That's hibachi.
Yeah, but no yum yum sauce.
I can give you a recipe for yum yum sauce, okay?
Okay, so
Please do
look,
share.
I looked at Walmart.
But you
and I was
can't
like,
eat the rice. You can't eat rice, right?
But you can eat
Now,
the
you
steak
do
with
the
the, you can eat the
You
steak
can
with
eat
the
the
cauliflower.
steak with
Which
the homemade
I'm
yum
okay.
yum sauce.
Yeah, corn flour.
Ends up saying you're going out to hibachi and you're gonna learn how to
Cauliflower.
hibachi your steak at home because it's more worth it.
Cauliflower tastes just like it.
They
It's
don't-
different
Yeah, you
substitute.
just learn how to
Yeah.
cook, cause, you think I'm gonna cook all this?
For those who are having trouble wrapping their head around it, and I know it's so new for you, just do those 3 things. Change your fats, take out your grains, and take out your sugars. That's all right now.
Oh, I took out all my sugars well back.
Good. We'll start looking at your spices, start flipping everything over. Look for maltodextrin, look for dextrose, look for all that good stuff. Those little sneakies, sugar sneakies. I'll get a handout on the prepared for next week.
Yes, I need to, yeah.
Maltodextrin's the worst one because
Which
I can tell you that
It's something that they
maltodextrin
put
takes
in
my
most
blood
of
sugar
your,
higher than sugar.
seasonings.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
sugar substance.
How
Yeah.
about garlic?
Yeah.
Garlic?
Garlic's fabulous.
Okay, wait,
Ooh,
but
yes.
Garlic is.
Check
as in like garlic powder or like garlic what?
Garlic powder.
However you want to get
Okay,
garlic
yeah.
into your body.
Any kind of
Because
garlic.
I
But-
put garlic on my chicken the other day.
Flip your garlic over and make sure it doesn't have maltodextrin in it.
Or just get you a garlic
She
press
doesn't know how to spell it.
and,
Just
start buying it
or,
fresh, find the bulbs.
or plain garlic powder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small.
Not, it's the Lowry's garlic sauce I think has maltodextrin in it.
Maltodextrin.
I believe it. And
Makes
then
me so
there's
mad.
wait. I've not checked
You
the
got it,
minced
baby.
garlic that's in the jar.
Don't listen to Ashley,
They-
she over here taking no notes.
Some of them are in soybean oil. You've gotta watch the oils.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay, so, we do